Kimberly Samaha. Kimberly is a managing partner with Synthesis Venture Fund Partners. She's also a professor at AUB and a business school. And Dr. Samaha is also a serial entrepreneur and has founded several companies and been an investor for more than 30 years, also experienced in this industry as an entrepreneur and investor. She specializes in US market, launching a series of startups and managing acquisitions into large multinational companies around the world. Our panel is about the hot global trends. And just now we're seeing a lot of these companies kind of like being born global, and they, from the beginning, they started in a small country where the market probably limited. So they're looking at the globe as their market. What do you see along those lines of trends from a global perspective?
So one of the things I'm definitely seeing is, we're, as a venture capital fund, we've probably done over almost 1,500 deals, and about 35% of them are actually international. So we're seeing a lot of inbound sort of deal flow, and I think whether it's from the Middle East or in Europe or in Asia, we're definitely seeing startups at an earlier stage thinking about tackling more than just their own market now. So I definitely see among the younger generation, and I say this as an old person, among the younger generation, they're definitely thinking much larger and being much more ambitious about the markets. And where we're seeing a lot of activity are particularly from the smaller countries in general, whether it's like places like in Scandinavia, like in Sweden or in Estonia. The smaller countries tend to think global from the beginning because they have to.
Yeah, and in an interesting perspective, just because 500 Startups, one of the pioneer funds who started with that intention of looking at startups around the globe. And anything else you want to add from, what kind of fueled that kind of strategy?
The reality is that if you look at where most of the economic and demographic growth is actually happening, it's actually not in the US, right? And I would say argue it's also not happening in Europe, it's happening almost everywhere else in the world. And so if you look at hard demographics, like this is where most of the growth is going to be over the next 10, 20 years. So we're learning, the reality is that you make a lot of mistakes in early stage investing, but you make a lot of bets and sort of help develop the ecosystem through making these investments. And that actually helps grow for the long term and also helps us with deal flow too.
Great. Kimberly, from your point of view, how do you see this global approach? You've done some energy deals and you were working in that industry. Can you share something about the global perspective?
I think one of the things that was great about the video that we just saw was the fact that it really illustrates, for me, what is the biggest shift in when we talk about the move in global trends. And that's really the fact that we're becoming integrated ecosystems. And it's not anymore about trying to be the one unicorn, the race to the top, which creates really an overall effect of racing all of us to the bottom. And what I really feel very strongly about is that this kind of a systems connectivity that we're seeing globally between the activity that we have here in Lebanon, if you just take what was just shown up on the slides and multiply that by every major city in the world, in every country in the world, this is what's happening. And it's created a whole new connectivity between what's happening on a local level, at the incubator level, what's happening at these kind of global accelerator levels, and right up into the strategic and corporate backbones. And that was my background was, it was almost 10 years ago when they first started trying to do this, and the big corporations were saying, how do we breed innovation? We can't seem to get this done in these big corporate bureaucracies. We have to go outside. And now I really believe that this is going to be the fundamental change in the next 5 years, is the fact that it's happened. There is the ability now to connect from all the way to the end of the customer's experience, where they're saying, we need this. And if we need this, it's not just one thing. It's 7 or 8 things. And those 7 or 8 things can be found by mining backwards into these ecosystems. Looking at the international accelerators that are going to play a role in terms of going around to all of these different countries, including Lebanon, and bringing the best of each one of those to the verticals that need it. So I think this is a huge shift, actually. Great. Companies nowadays are born global, and I think that was just a terrific statement in terms of the reality of it. I think that trying to be either, coming from the MENA region, if you're trying to be a Me Too, That's tough because, you know, being a Me Too and then trying to compete with, as I said, you know, there's, if you have one product or one idea, there's at least 150 other ideas that are hatched at the same time that look just like you. So I think part of it is, again, getting to the idea of which piece is missing and how can we start working this backwards. So instead of coming up with just a good idea, find out what's missing and craft the companies and the startups around that missing piece. That's where we could play an important role.